Welcome to Travel with Sean. I'm Sean. Today I'm in Athens, Greece, and I want to show you things you can see when walking around on foot. There's a lot of interesting things that you're not going to see using just the hop on, hop off, or with a guided tour. These are interesting things, whether they're archaeological or not, that you encounter along the sidewalk, in between buildings, even in a park. Let me show you.
As you may have noticed from some of my videos, or from watching my video entitled Off the Beaten Trail, when I travel, I tend to stray away from tourist sites. Sure, I will visit them, but then I stray away from them, going off the beaten trail. And that's what I did in Athens. This video shows you what I found in doing so. I was amazed at how much there is to see in Athens if you just get out and explore. There's literally history and historical ruins everywhere. This video starts with a climb up Philopappos Hill. It's only about 482 feet above sea level, but it's quite a hike, with several sets of stairs to climb, as well as walking up footpaths that lead to the top. That is, if you approach from near the Acropolis. There is an ancient road on the opposite side of the hill that has an easier climb with footpaths that aren't as steep. Now that we've reached the top of the hill, we find the Philopappos Monument, a memorial structure dedicated to a Roman senator who was a prominent benefactor of Athens. He died in 116 AD, and his tomb is located beneath the monument. From here, there is also a breathtaking view of Athens and a picturesque view of the Acropolis. It's a great place to come for photography. As we start moving down the opposite side of the hill, we find part of an ancient city wall. This city wall is called the Diateichisma. It was a fortification wall built in the early 3rd century BC, specifically around 280 BC, to protect the city from the Macedonians. It was built behind and in addition to this original city wall, which had protected Athens since the 5th century BC. The purpose of this wall was to protect the core city by cutting off certain outlying areas and reducing the size of the defensible zone, which was easier to guard. Its construction reflects the changing military and economic realities of the time. Athens could no longer afford to defend its full classical era city limits. Located on the eastern slope of Philopappos Hill, the Prison of Socrates is believed to be where the famous philosopher Socrates was held before his trial and subsequent execution in 399 BC. Although the exact location of his cell is uncertain, it is traditionally believed to be here because this cave structure was built either during Socrates' lifetime or before it, and its chambers resemble prison cells. Among the chambers are bathing facilities, which match descriptions in Plato's dialogues of Socrates bathing before drinking hemlock. Socrates was convicted of unfaithfulness to the gods and corrupting the youth of Athens. This was because his philosophical approach was to question the status quo. He taught his students to think for themselves instead of blindly accepting what they were told. As some point to the fact that there is no direct archaeological evidence linking the site to Socrates. During World War II, this cave structure was used to store antiquities from the National Archaeological Museum. Socrates is considered the father of Western philosophy. His student Plato went on to be a very famous philosopher and teacher of philosophy, as did one of his students, Aristotle. Cimon was an Athenian general and a victor in the Olympic Games in the early 5th century BC. This is believed to be his tomb and that of his father, Miltiades, an Athenian general in the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC. The Church of St. Demetrius Lombardiaris is a small 12th century chapel built at the site of the north tower of the Diateichisma gate. In the middle of the 17th century, the Turkish commander of the Acropolis bombed the church from the main gate of the Acropolis. The next day, lightning struck, killing the commander and his family. Some say it was God's vengeance. This wall on Nix Hill is part of the fortification wall built in the early 3rd century BC to protect the city from the Macedonians, and that extends across the nearby Philopappos Hill. Nix Hill was the birthplace of democracy because it was here that male citizens of Athens, ages 18 and up, met to vote on laws, war, foreign policy, etc., from the 6th century BC until the end of the 4th century BC. Areopagus Hill, also known as the Hill of Ares, stands between Nix Hill and the Acropolis. According to Greek mythology, the god Ares was tried here by the other gods for the murder of Poseidon's son. This story gave the hill its name and its symbolic association with justice and divine judgment. In classical Athens, the Areopagus was the meeting place of the Areopagite Council, one of the city's earliest aristocratic institutions. Even after democratic reforms, the Areopagus retained jurisdiction over murder trials and other serious crimes. The Areopagus is also the famous site where the Apostle Paul delivered a sermon to the Athenians around 50 AD. Given its location, it also has a great view of the city and the Acropolis. Walking down the street, we encountered ancient ruins next to the sidewalk. This is the site of a Roman bath. The city was digging a ventilation shaft for the metro when they discovered these ruins. The bath was originally built in the 4th century AD and enlarged in the 6th century. This bathing center had 9 rooms, including 2 with in-floor heating and 2 furnace rooms to heat the floors, walls, and pools, and at least 1 room with hot baths. The room with the hot baths had 15 columns and dividing walls. There was another room nearby with 17 reused marble columns and warm baths. The pools, floors, and rooms were heated by small furnace rooms and underground passages connected to the furnace rooms. This couple looks like they're trying to get away from the Roman soldiers. I don't blame them. This guy looks scary. I hope he doesn't notice me. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Now we come to Zappian Hall, completed in 1888 to serve as a venue for events related to the revival of the Olympic Games, which were first held in 1896 after a hiatus of over 1,500 years. Construction of this complex was financed by Evangelis Zappas, a wealthy Greek benefactor who also sponsored the revival of the Olympics, so the building and the whole complex was named after him. During Greece's EU presidency, Zappeion Hall becomes a significant venue for hosting key meetings, summits, and events related to the presidency, showcasing its importance as a diplomatic and cultural landmark. Zappeion Hall is adjacent to the national park. And look what I found. Pieces of ancient columns. So you see what I mean about historical ruins laying around everywhere in Athens? Taking a stroll through the park, we came across more ruins, more pieces of ancient columns. This thing here that looks like maybe an ancient seat is actually the capital of a column, which is the top of the column. This specific style is called Ionic, which was popular from the 5th century BC until the 1st century BC. You know how a lot of people would take their dog for a walk in the park? This guy took his pet Goose for a walk in the park. The Lyceum of Aristotle was one of the most influential educational institutions of the ancient world, founded by Aristotle in 335 BC. Located just outside of the Athenian city walls, the Lyceum was originally a public gymnasium, specializing in wrestling and boxing, and a place for military training, public gatherings, and philosophical discussions by Socrates and other notable philosophers of the time. The Lyceum became a center for philosophy, science, and empirical research, where Aristotle and his students studied subjects ranging from ethics and politics to biology, logic, and metaphysics. The Lyceum included a gymnasium, baths, a steam room with heated floors, covered walkways for walking lectures, gardens, and groves for discussion and reflection. The school continued after Aristotle's death in 322 BC, but was eventually destroyed by the Roman general Sulla in 86 BC. The site was rediscovered in 1996. Have you ever heard of a hotel with a church inside it? I don't mean a room set aside for chapel. I mean a church building, an actual church building. This has to be the only hotel in the world built around and over a church. Built over an ancient temple of Hercules in the 16th century, the church is called Aya Dynamis, which translates to holy power or holy strength. It's dedicated to St. Mary, specifically as a protector of women during childbirth. Beneath the church is a large underground cave, which, according to legend, was used during the Ottoman occupation to hide church related treasures and later to support the Greek War of Independence.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for traveling along with me. I appreciate your support. Until next time, bye bye.